Iran and the United States are engaged in an intense war of words. Heated exchanges keep coming out of Tehran and Washington. The Iranian President Hassan Rouhani has dismissed his U.S. counterpart's intensified rhetoric as empty threats.
Certain American officials issue empty threats, but we don't need to respond to any absurd statement or engage in a verbal exchange. We must respond to them with our actions.
It all began when the U.S. recently made efforts to block Iran's oil sales as part of tough sanctions that it says will be imposed on Iran in the coming months. The sanctions were announced following America's unilateral withdrawal from an international nuclear deal with Iran. The U.S. pulled the rug out from under the deal despite international warnings. U.S. President Donald Trump said the nuclear deal, which was negotiated by his predecessor Barack Obama, was disastrous. Trump now says he is open to a new agreement with Iran.
And we'll see what happens, but we're ready to make a real deal, not the deal that was done by the previous administration, which was a disaster.
The U.S. is trying hard to mount economic pressure on Iran in order to force it to come to the negotiating table again. But observers believe by unilaterally pulling out of the previous deal, known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the U.S. seriously dented its own credibility. How can America be trusted again? How can the international community put its trust in what Trump says today after what he did to the JCPOA?
It is hard to believe that it will go anywhere with the Trump team. They have been nothing but taking a position of confrontation, accusation, and they walked away from an agreement that was from both sides, Iran and US, was a win-win situation.
Why should Iran and other parties to the Iran nuclear deal listen to anything the US says? The Iran nuclear deal was the result of years of international diplomacy, but the administration of Donald Trump turned its back on all of that. And now it says a new deal is very much possible while keeping up threats against Iran.
This approach is not going to work out. They have to learn from some of those Americans who are very familiar with the Iranian culture, like Ambassador Limbert, to figure out a way to negotiate in a proper way, not by threats and other accusations.
Tehran insists it will not be bullied by the U.S. Iran's foreign ministry insists there will be no talks under the threat of sanctions. The foreign ministry is echoing similar remarks by top Iranian officials. Tehran is meanwhile keeping up its diplomatic efforts. It's been holding negotiations with the European Union, Russia, and China to see whether the JCPOA can still somehow work. Tensions between Iran and the U.S. are at their highest levels in years. But where will this latest escalation lead to? Are the two sides headed for a major confrontation? Or will tensions subside and open way for some kind of compromise? The coming months will probably answer these questions.